Okay, so as you saw there, that you know, you don't want to be afraid to change your dials, and with MIG welding, you know, no matter what I tell you or your teacher tells you or anybody tells you, it really comes down to tons and tons of practice. You want to take hours and hours and days to just run beads and practice running up and down. Don't be afraid to use up mountains of scrap in practicing, because you know, all the advice in the world, that it's not going to help you if you don't have hands-on practice. You've got to practice. The way welding is, it's not like riding a bicycle. If you don't use it, you will lose it. It's you can get out of practice. I mean, you won't forget the basics, and the better welder you are, the quicker you'll come back to being able to pick it up again, you know, if you haven't done it for a long time. But you know, even if you're in between jobs, you should be welding, you should be practicing, and that's what will separate you from the rest. And take from me, practice is very important. I practice welding all the time, actually, and you know, go out of my way to try and get different tickets, and you know, get your CWB or your AWS, whatever, you know, whatever country you're in. Try and keep up on always having at least the basic tickets in your country. So I'm going to show you something else that this is sort of your typical short circuit transfer style welding. When you hear the sort of the machine gun sound there, you know, the more you dial that in, the more that sound is smooth. It's not the end all be all of how a weld should go, because I've seen people that, you know, the only way they knew how to dial in the machine was by the sound. Sound ain't important. The end result is important. What this fucking weld looks like is important. And is it fused? Because you can do the most beautiful weld in the world, but if this piece is not stuck to this piece, it don't mean shit. It ain't a weld. A weld is an actual weld. It's not the weld itself. It's the end result is the weld. So I'm going to dial this up, bring this up a notch, and show you what spray arc seems like. The wire's a little small for spray arc, but we're gonna blast these volts up to like 27 volts and about 480, 470, and when you're doing spray arc, this tends to be a little bit of a lower ratio than this. They won't be lined up. We're just going to take it from there. Like I said, just set your numbers and don't worry about it. Do a practice run and test it out and see if it is right. If it's not right, make some changes. Okay, that was getting close to being a spray arc weld. It was, as it was warming up at the end there, it was achieving the visual results of a spray arc weld, which is a high degree of wetting and a herringbone pattern. At the beginning of the weld is quite a round profile, and at the end is a V-shaped profile with a line going down the center. To achieve results we're after, we'll see if the volts go up a little more. Maybe we'll put the wire down just slightly and try it again. Try right here. So this is the main benefit of a spray arc weld. It has a beautiful pattern. It's a very flat weld. It wets in perfectly. The downside is occasionally it's so hot it creates undercut, at the top of the weld. In this case it didn't, because I didn't quite have it that hot, but you know, if you tune it up too much, you'll get that problem. It's almost impossible to do spray arc in any other position than flat. Overhead I've seen it done, but it's not really practical. Deposit rates are too low. The main benefit is that is almost no cleanup. There's very little, if any, spatter. Super clean looking, super fast, super hot, digs deep. It's a great weld for heavy material, and that if you're going to weld something real heavy, that's the way you want to go. So you see the difference in as the heats went up, right? Like that was much colder, a little hotter, a little hotter, a little hotter. So anyway, I don't know what else to show you from here, but so that's a thin material, burning 035 with MIG Mix Gold, which is a Praxair product of sort of like C25 with 1% hydrogen, I believe, and running 27.5 volts on the Lincoln Power MIG 255. Let's see if I can just find quickly some slightly thicker material under my bench here. Okay, here's a little piece of shit here. We'll try that. I'm gonna just hit it with the wire wheel. Okay, you got any amount of rust on something, you want to get it cleaned off, because when you melt rust, it goes from being a solid iron oxide to a gaseous iron oxide, and all that gasification becomes bubbles inside your weld. If you cut them open, they look like an arrow bar. An arrow bar is not very strong, so you don't want to be holding your ship together with an arrow bar. So anyway, this is a piece of 1/4 inch and this is a piece of 1/2 inch, which makes it a little funny, but we're gonna tune these volts up even more. I don't know how. Oh, that's as far as the machine goes, is 28.5. We'll just leave it at 455, and we'll do a real heavy spray arc. Ideally, it would be almost a silent spray sound, so we'll see how it goes. Okay, that was a real hot weld. You know, I know some people will critique my straightness there, but you try holding the camera and welding with one hand at the same time. It's not really that easy to do, but I think I did okay. So again, I'm not getting my true spray happening, but that's because I'm running a 035 wire. If I was burning 045, it'd do a much better job, but it's not bad for what it is. Anyway, that's the basics of welding a fairly thick material with MIG welding. The next video will be about welding thin material, which is likely to be, you know, 50% of what you're going to be welding at home, because a lot of people are welding their frames on their cars, putting a patch on a car, you know, welding something on their workbench, some little thing, right? You know, not everybody's a fabricator, so I'm not going to talk to you like everybody's a fabricator, but so we'll mess around with some 1/8 and some 16 gauge, stuff like that in the next video. Thank you.